once again, there is a lot to homeownership, and you need to have a clear understanding on exactly what homeownership means to you and what type of homeownership is appropriate for you. Okay. And you may even decide that renting is what's appropriate for you. Whatever your choice, whatever your decision, remember this: home. We all have a home, whether we rent or own. Home is where you lay down, where your family meets, where that love is. You can still build a community regardless. So I just want you to keep that in mind. All right. Now, the other thing that we're going to talk about real quick in this video is we're going to talk about working with a real estate agent. I'm not sure if everyone is aware that there's different ways and how it works. So we're going to just go over it real quick. It is some difference between seller and buyer, and there's some things that are kind of similar. But I just want to go over these things with you because I just want to make sure that you understand these two things right here. What it looks like and how it will work for you, how that process will work. And you could have bought a home before, but now it's your first time selling. So we're going to talk about the seller disclosure, working with the real estate agent, and the buyer. Okay. And we're going to go through this pretty brief. So if there's any content in there that you say, hey, I heard you mention that, but can you speak on it a little bit? Talk to me a little bit more about that particular subject. Like I said, comment below, and we'll make videos on those subjects as well. All right, so let's get started. And what I'm going to do, excuse me, I am going to share my screen with you. So let's get that shared. Awesome. So here we go. So this is the working with the real estate agent disclosure. This here can be found at the North Carolina Real Estate Agent Commission website.gov website under forms and publications. They revise it from time to time. This one here is the most revised document that they offer. And I just want to go over it with you guys really quick. First, let me say this. Do not be afraid of signing this document, okay? Do not, because this form is not a contract. It is just a disclosure talking to you about the type of agency and things that are available for you. And by signing this document, it only means that you receive it. So you're not in a real estate agent contract by acknowledging and signing this document, okay? But the thing here is that they want you to understand. So it says here, important, this form is not a contract, it's just a disclosure. In a real estate sales transaction, it's important to understand whether or not a real estate agent represent you. So we're talking about the seller now, and we're going to go over the buyer in just a moment. You're going to see how there are some real similarities to this, okay? The agent, of course, is to review this form with you at first substantial contact. That means that before we start talking about how much money you got saved up, how much you approve for, and all of these different things, that we need to go over this document here with you, okay? And they're going to give you a copy of it for you to sign after they've gone over it, and it's for your protection. So do not share confidential information with the real estate agent or assume the agent is working on, on your behalf. Until you have entered into a written agreement with the agent to represent you. Otherwise, the agent can share your confidential information. All right, please know, and it's going to talk about the different types of agency right here. So as I said before, I'm a real estate agent. I work at Keller Williams Point East here in Greenville, North Carolina. And what we're going to talk about is the type of agency that they do. Okay, so of course, down here it says for sale by owner, unrepresented seller. So we don't, as far as a seller disclosure and agreement, we don't work with those individuals to help them sell their home. There's some ways that can be done through buyer agency agreement, but we'll talk about that in another video. But just real quick, let's touch on this here. It says check all relationship types that applies to the seller. So at our firm, what we do is we do seller agency, we do dual agency, and then we do designated dual agency. So to understand, I am not representing the seller until I am in a contract with him. I cannot go into a verbal contract with the seller. We're going to go into contract with each other in writing. Okay. And once that is done and it's in writing, so once I've gone into a contract with them to list their home, okay, then I can take it and then I can market that property for sale. Now, if you sign the listing agreement with the firm, its agents will represent you and only you. Buyers would either have to be represented by another firm or a different firm because they can't be represented by someone in our firm. So this here gets a little bit complicated. It's the same thing with the buyer agency, but just know this. There is a way to get the loyalty that you get in doing the seller agency or buyer agency that is going to allow you to work with folks in that firm. And I'll explain to you why when we get to the next part down here, because it's very important. Okay. So dual agency. Dual agency occurs when the firm represent both the seller and the buyer, which means that their loyalty is divided. Okay. They represent you. They're going to be honest with you. However, they work. So yeah, they rep with you. They're going to be fair. They're going to be equal. They're going to be honest, but they cannot help you gain an advantage over the other party. Now, and they're representing only you, whether it's in seller sub agency, and we'll talk about the other way of doing this in just a moment, then that means that that individual is loyal to you and they have your best interests. They're trying to get you an advantage. Okay. So let's say you say, you know what, Missy, I like the seller agency because they represent me and they're getting me an advantage and that is what I want. However, I still want to have access to sell my house, excuse me, sell my house to the buyers that are working with other agents in your firm. Awesome. So we have what's known as a designated dual agency. And if you go into this agreement, what's going to happen is the firm is going to have representation for both you and this for both the buyer and the sellers. Okay. And they would designate someone to work with the buyer and they would designate someone to work with the seller. Each agent would be loyal to their client. So you're able to get what you got here. And now you're able to work with people's buyers or sellers in that firm. So that's very important. Regardless of what type of agency you go into, everybody have different things that they prefer. I do like a designated dual agency. If I'm working with a buyer, they can't buy my listing, but they can buy anybody else at my firm listing. Okay. If I'm working with the seller, again, they can they can't get my buyers, but they can get anybody at the firm buyers. And we have, I think, over Pitt and surrounding counties here in Eastern North Carolina, there's over like 700 agents. So you would have access to those individuals, even if you can't get my own personal listings or get my buyers. Okay. Now, if you did want my buyers, you want my listings, you want everything, then that designated dual, that's the one you want. Because even though the loyalty is split, we're still going to treat you fair and honest and equal. We just can't give you an advantage over the other individual. So I can't share confidential information. And how does that work? If I had spoke to someone, let's say I talked to a seller, he was looking to sell in his house and he said, you know what, we're listing this thing at 200,000, but God knows we'd be willing to take 190. But then when they're getting ready to go into contract with me, a friend or family member say, hey, Bob, you know, my son is actually a real estate agent. So they say, hey, Missy, you know, we're going to keep this in the family. We're going to work with my nephew. Great. So now their house is listed and I got a buyer and it is the absolute perfect house for that buyer. Now we're going to start talking about buyer stuff too. What I can do as an agent, I can quickly say, hey, this is a house here. I see it listed for 200,000, but I know this seller would take $190,000, right? We never were under contract. Nothing was in writing, just information was shared. That's why that part about confidential information. So let's make an offer for $190,000 and we make the offer, it gets the buyer gets the contract, and that is to the seller's disadvantage. So Again, be careful in sharing your confidential information. You never know if that person, because we could be really good friends or whatever the case may be. We could have met at a dinner party, but you never know if that person is going to be sitting on the other side of the negotiation tables with you. So just make sure you know what kind of representation you have, or if you are even represented before you start sharing that confidential information. All right. So now on the buyer agency, it's pretty much similar. There are a few different things here. So in a buyer agency, again, you want to make sure they represent you. Now, a buyer agency agreement can be or it can be in a written contract. However, if I'm going to make an offer for you, it can only be a written contract. So we have to go from having an oral contract that we're going to work together to us putting in writing what we agreed to. Okay. And be really honest with you, when I meet with people, I get that oral agreement might sound great, but again, let's have it in writing. Let's keep that confidential information, all of that stuff. Let's put all that stuff in writing so we don't have any issues or any conflicts that we deal with later on in the future. Okay. Dual agency, same thing, represent you and the seller. You can look at every house that I have and every house that other agents have at my firm. Once again, the buyer agency, the same thing up here. You have to look at a different firm. So you couldn't look at my firm's houses, but you could look at the different firm houses. Dual agency gives you the best of all of that. And if you say, again, I like this here, I definitely want to be able to look at the other people at your firm office, but I don't like that dual agency because the not being able to get an advantage, not being able to share that confidential information that you may have with me, then look at that designated dual agency for a buyer where I'm assigned to you, I am loyal to you, and we have our confidentiality and everything between us, and I am trying to get you an advantage. Yes. So any agreement that you and an agent, this says any agreement between you and an agent that permits dual agency must be in writing no later than the time that you make an offer on a home. So you make an offer, everything has to go into writing. Okay. And it then tells you for more information on agents' duties and service, of course, go to the North Carolina real estate commissions. You got questions to answer. There's a whole publication and brochure, and you can get a copy of it there for free on working with a real estate agent. So again, guys, thank you again. You can go anywhere. You can get information from anyone. I appreciate you taking the time coming here, listen to my content, liking and subscribing to my videos. I really appreciate it. Thank you all, and y'all have a great day. Oh, one more thing. I will be doing my best to make sure that I'm coming up here and I'm being active with putting content up here, even if it's just one video a week, even if it's just I had a thought 2-minute video. We're going to just try to keep some information up here, keep it coming at you. So guys, thank you again, and you have a great day.